Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 542, our top 5 hand management games.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by Game Toppers LLC. They have amazing products. They have amazing toppers, mats, accessories, and amazing Berkey. Go to their website, gametoppersllc.com, find something there, bring it on home, and put it on your game table. That's gametoppersllc.com.
Welcome to the nation of Meeples. Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holiday.
I'm Sierra Holiday.
I'm Nathan Howard.
We would love for you to catapult yourself over to our website.
I love it. Catapult, yes.
Please land safely, though. And check out all of our episodes. We have links to all of our previous episodes, blogs, photos of some of our gaming experiences, and we have bios of each of the hosts and some of the hosts emeritus of Meeple Nation and our bloggers. We also would love to hear from you. If you have opinions, queries, or just general statements of interest that you would like to share with us, we would love to hear them. Email us at meeplenation@gmail.com.
At this point, I guess we need to get a bio from you, Sierra.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, I guess so.
Yes, we need a bio from Sierra.
Yep.
That will be forthcoming.
And then just a little thumbnail picture for, actual size.
Wow.
Oh, you're giving me a lot of credit there. Whole thumbnail.
We have a link to our Patreon page. We love our patrons. We thank you so much for your support, and we love to make this content for you, and we appreciate your help to make the listening experience better for all of our listeners.
It is the highlight of the podcast time. It is time to talk about some of our gaming highlights. Sierra, a soon-to-be regular host, maybe? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more, say no more. What have you been playing lately that has made your highlight?
Well, I just played Earth, and it was a blast.
For your first time?
Yeah, for the first time.
Ah.
Oh, it was so much fun. I actually beat my dad in it. It was pretty epic.
That is nice. Yeah, that's always... I have a struggle beating your dad in
Me
most
too.
games.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
This is one that I need to get Cheryl to play too. I'm still trying to get that to the table with her because I think the art and everything that's in this game is very good. But tell us more. What did you think of it?
Oh, it was incredible. There were so many things to do and so many things where you had to try and plan ahead, but where everyone else is also picking an action that you get to also participate in, kind of changes the direction you go on your turn and what you're going to end up doing, which is kind of fun. You have to figure out, okay, this is kind of what this person's going for, so they're probably going to do this, so I don't have to do this action, and then can instead do this action so that I can get more out of my time playing. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, this is one of those times where both Amara and Sierra had a ton of red cards, and guess how many red cards I had?
Yeah, you failed to plant any red cards?
I couldn't get any red cards.
Oh, they were just zoinking them all.
Yeah, I had no red cards, no options to get red cards. I'm like, dang it, this is not going to go well for me because I can't get any red cards to
Well,
take
They just kept
advantage.
taking red action after red action
Yep.
after red
Pretty
action.
much. We were going through cards a lot more than you were, too. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember Amara saying she had like 67 in her...
64.
64 cards
Yeah.
in her compost pile.
Yeah, that's
Crazy.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I had 12.
I think I had 47.
Yeah, that's...
Maybe
So-
I had 8.
Yeah. For some reason, composting cards always seems to be my weakest avenue for points.
Me too.
I always try to go for the public goals, try to get those as quick as I can, and try to maximize my personal scoring.
I had, of my 8 cards that I had to choose from the beginning of the game, 6 of them were terrain cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going for terrain this game. And I drew a lot more terrain cards. After that, it was a very odd game as far as card draw for me.
Interesting.
But it was fun, even though I lost it. But it was still a close game.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I had an app that would tell me what the scores were. Oh, I do.
Oh, you do? There is such a thing.
Okay, never mind. You destroyed us. It was 183 to 218 to 247. It was a shellacking.
Way to go, Cece.
Woohoo!
Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun game. So speaking, we a couple weeks ago we talked about Kingsburg, and Doug had mentioned that he had never played Kingsburg before.
Oh, did you get that to the table?
We got Doug to play Kingsburg last week.
Look at you pushing new games on people.
Yeah. Hey, I'm here to fulfill your wishes. Doug wanted to play it, and he has now played it, and he liked it.
Oh, good.
You know, it's one of those where we got finished, and he's like, these old games it's kind of cool to bust these out and play these. These are actually really fun. I'm like, well, there's a reason why there's a third edition.
Yeah.
But speaking of third edition, we got looking on BGG at third edition, and it's kind of getting ripped apart.
Oh,
in
is
the
it?
comments?
Oh,
Yeah, because
that's a
the art is just subpar. The wooden cubes for the resources, it's all cardboard chits now.
Gaming industry's tough.
Yeah.
To bring a game in at a reasonable price,
Yeah.
you're getting a lot of cardboard.
It's true. So they're kind of getting torn apart, which is sad to see because it is a phenomenal game. It really is a fun game. I like the addition of Doug wasn't so sure about the addition with the second edition where you could to change the abilities of the King's Court throughout the game. But he's like, that may just be because this is my first time playing and I kind of wanted to utilize some of those other abilities. I like it because I've played it so much. I like having that fresh, oh, okay, now what do I get to do? No, it's a great game. I'm glad that we got Doug to play it, and I'm glad he had a good time and enjoyed it.
Excellent. That is awesome. Ashley, my oldest daughter, she lives here with us, and she has a new shadow that has been loitering around quite a bit. And so we have introduced Zach to several new games.
Oh, her shadow has a name.
Her
Okay.
shadow does have a name, yes.
Okay.
We introduced Zach to quite a few new games and the whole new level of the weirdness that is us. Got him to actually sit down and watch Kung Pao Enter the Fist, which is Stephen Oderkirk. It's a unique film.
Yes, it is.
But I find it very funny. And when it first came out, it had ringtones from quotes from the show. And it was actually Ashley's first time watching the show, too. It was very bizarre for her. She said that she kept hearing these things that she had heard out of context other places over and
Her
over
whole
again.
life.
Yeah. And she's like, wait, this is from here?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then we also got to, because Ashley loves the game Firefly. So we started watching Firefly together. But we have gotten the opportunity to play some games with these guys and played Captain Flip several times. And then this last time, we just introduced them to one of Cheryl's favorite games, and that is Trails of Tucana. Trails Tucana is a flip and write where you're trying to collect artifacts, not necessarily collect, but connect artifacts to docks and to connect docks to docks in order to score and maximize your points. Ashley was like, I don't want to overwhelm him, so let's just play one game. And then we quickly played 2 games. And then we went and played some Captain Flip again. I have to apologize again for knocking Captain Flip. Captain Flip turns out to be an okay game.
Every time you say Captain Flip, I think that you should be flipping a bottle. It reminds me of Bottle Flip.
It's not spin the bottle, no.
Not spin the bottle, where the kids like do the bottle flip.
Yeah, where they trying to get it to land.
I keep
upright.
picturing like, oh, it's a board game where you're flipping a bottle.
Yeah, nope. Captain Flip.
So you wear a captain hat while you're flipping the bottle. I don't know.
Arr,
It's just what it sounds like.
Arr.
It's a pirate game.
It is.
Right up your alley, Dad.
Flip a bottle.
But anyways, yeah, so it's kind of nice to introduce some classic games, and Ashley's very excited to introduce them to Firefly, the board game, and which means I need to bone up and learn those rules again.
Yeah.
And get Doug to play that.
Bust out the big new version
Great.
of it, which
Yeah.
is exciting.
Yeah, has some new content in there too. Not a ton of new content, but it does have some nice pieces.
And a big box.
And a big box.
I just need to con you out of one of your boxes.
Yeah, I probably should just give you that other one over there. Because it does look really cool on the counter, but it probably needs something inside it. It needs some love.
I have love that I can give it. I
Yeah.
have components that can go in it and boards and pieces and that are even for that game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Just saying. But anyways, those are some of my highlights, that just having the opportunity to take some basic games to a new audience.
No,
It's
that's
kind of fun.
That's great. And I love, as my daughters have dated and they've introduced games to their friends that they've come over, and I love to see that. I love to see people that have never really been exposed to board games start to understand that it's not Monopoly, it's not just Risk. There are really fun games out there to be played. Their eyes open up to this huge world. It's like, are you serious? I didn't even know that. They go down into the game room and it's like, I didn't know there were this many games. It's like, oh, this doesn't even scratch the surface of how many games are out there. Like, not even close. And it's fun to see that their eyes open, and when they start experiencing some of the games they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. I didn't even know. That's cool to see.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you've had that experience with him.
Fun tangent. I had a neighbor stopped my wife and I the other day.
Stalked?
Maybe, but I said stop.
Okay, I wasn't. Sorry, I misheard.
There may have been some stalking because as the story continues, she said, I heard that you have thousands of games, and I know it's not proper to invite myself over to see them, but can we come over?
What? These just strangers?
No. I mean, we knew them, and
Okay.
I knew that they were game players working with some youth. Her son had actually been here and played some games. Met him at the city holiday or whatever it is, the city recognition day. There was a luau, and she was there handing out tickets, and she saw the Meeple Nation shirt, and so we were talking a little bit about that. And she had just gotten Wormspan, and so she was really excited about playing. So they're familiar with games. The amazement that she said I had thousands of games, and which I'm like, ooh, I have 1,000 of games.
You're like, ooh, don't say that around my wife.
I know. I was like, well, so I told my wife, I was like, I got to make up some work quick because they're coming over expecting to see
expectations have been
thousands.
set.
Yeah. And then Zach's like, well, maybe they meant thousands of dollars. I was like, shut up, Zach. You're no longer invited.
Nice.
But anyways, those are some fun little highlights. So
Into the meat of it.
Into the meat of the matter for sure. This is our top 5 hand management games.
Top 5 hand management games. So let's start with you, Nathan.
All right.
Your number 5.
So my number 5 is a game called Fairy Tale. Fairy Tale is a little bit of an older game. Came out in the year 2004. This is something that we got pretty early on in 2004-ish time, and we played this game tons over and over and over and over again. So this is a drafting game. You start with 5 cards. So you'll draft a card, pass to the left or pass to the right, and then you'll end up again with 5 cards. And with those 5 cards that you end up with, you're actually going to only play 3 of them. The other 2 are just going to get discarded. So when you play these cards, it's all kind of a tableau builder. You have to manage your hand in the draft, you have to manage your hand after the draft, and then you have to manage your hand as you build your tableau, because you're going to play cards that may flip other cards, or maybe even flip the card itself, which means that card's going to go face down. And if a card is face down, it's not going to score you anything. So you want to be able to play other cards later that will unflip cards. And then as your tableau grows, you want to be able to monopolize on combos that are in the cards so that you can maximize your turn. But again, it's going to go 5 rounds, and you have 3 cards that you're going to draft out of each of those 5 rounds. So it's tough to kind of plan what is going to be available. But this game we have played time and time and time again, and just had a great time with it. There's 4 suits in there. Very much a fantasy theme. There's fairies, there's dragons, there's knights, and then there's the demons. Demons have the opportunity to be hunted, which can sour your turn. There's 3 cards that will hunt the other cards, and any of the demon cards that get hunted will get flipped face down without taking any action on them. But you're trying to get cards that are going to work together. You have cards that are going to cross suits that you want to combine together. You have cards that are going to grow exponentially if you have the same copies of the cards. And then you have locations and characters and stories. The theme, I think, is done very well because as you're telling the story, this fairy tale, you're trying to maximize the points that you're telling the story of the fairies, you're telling the stories of the dragons or the knights. Your stories need characters, they need locations. blends together really well, plays really quick, it has a 30-minute time frame. But Fairy Tale, phenomenal game, 2 to 5 players.
I'm surprised that's that old. My first time playing this was 2021.
Yeah.
I had never even heard of it until we pulled it out as just a filler game.
It's one that hit the shelf for a while as new stuff kind of came in. But this is a game that I'm always anxious to go back to.
Yeah, it's a great game. My number 5 is down the list on somebody else's list, so I'm not going to talk about it.
All right. Sounds good. Sierra?
My number 5 was actually Earth. I think it's a really cool hand management game where you're trying to get cards, looking for different cards that'll give you the different goals, your personal goal or the general goals, and trying to get rid of cards because as you're composting them, you're getting points for them, but then you aren't able to use those cards unless you have some other card in your hand that'll let you take back a card from your compost. Do that and build up your tableau and you're trying to figure out the most efficient way to utilize them.
Yeah, there's so much to Earth. So much replayability to Earth and variety. You're just tipping the iceberg of Earth. Cece, there is so much more that I'm excited for you to find.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Earth is a great game.
All right, so I guess that's back to me.
Back to you.
So my number 4 is a newer game to me. It's an older game. By older, it only goes back to 2018, so not an old game. Re-implemented as Lords of Ragnarok, but I'm talking about Lords of Hellas. Lords of Hellas is all about the Greek gods. You are trying to go on quests. You're trying to make offerings. You're trying to build monuments to the gods, build armies. This is an area control. And Andy, you've played this with me, right?
I have.
I thought this game was very fun. I didn't think that the area control sometimes is a make or break for our group.
It's not. In fact, I think it's one of our least favorite game mechanics. But I think that being said, there are some area control games that are okay when there's not a lot of conflict. And there wasn't a ton of conflict when we played this. I mean, there was a little bit of strategic movement, move into certain areas and get points that way, but there wasn't a whole lot of direct conflict, I would say. I think maybe towards the end, I can't remember for sure, but maybe towards the end we had a little bit, but there really wasn't a lot. It was more of just trying to take over certain areas and deal with the empire you had and maybe expand a little bit more into some of the more neutral spaces.
Yeah, nothing that left me alone in Australia.
Or the Middle East.
Yeah, no risk vibes. But I thought Lords of Hellas was really good. The sculptures that you're making
very cool.
Look really cool.
Yeah.
This is an Awakened Realms game. So this is an earlier Awakened Realms games.
But they still did awesome on their sculpts and their miniatures.
Yep, their miniatures always look really good.
Plus, I think that was one of my favorite parts is trying to build the monument of Zeus. It was just cool. It's cool as for me anyway, it helped me be immersed in the game more.
Yeah, I think it pulled in the theme of the game fairly well.
Yeah.
Going on your quests, and the quests are a little bit random. They're still plausible to the game, and they very much fall into that Greek mythology theme. I really enjoyed Lords of Hellas. I would love to play it more often. It's one that has a little bit of, not a huge learning curve, but I got to be able to play it more often so that I can teach it better.
I had fun when we played this.
Yep, so that was my number 4, Lords of Hellas.
All right, my number 4 is another game Nathan loves, and that is Wingspan. Now, I picked this game. Now, Wingspan is not my favorite game by any means. It's not even in my top 10 probably, but it hit my top 5 on hand management because of just the nuances of managing your hand. And for me anyway, I always try to get cards that allow me to tuck cards, and it always seems to be in the wetlands that allows you to do that. Part of that is, number 1, finding cards that are going to work well together. You're going to get the combos. Number 2, having enough cards in your hand to be able to tuck cards that are going to give you points. Obviously, a ton of cards in the game, especially if you have the expansions in. There are bonus cards in the game that if you have certain cards, they're going to give you points. And I like how, as they've added cards, they have kept those ratios, the percentage of cards, they've kept that the same. For example, cards with named after people or something like that. And it'll give you on the bottom of the card a percentage of cards that fit that category. And as they've added more cards to the game, they did not change the percentage of cards. So they've been able to keep that ratio, which I think is cool.
I think that's really cool.
But I do love the fact that as you're managing your hand of cards and managing the cards in your tableau and trying to gain the biggest benefit. So when you take that laying eggs action, for example, and you get to go activate all of your brown powers, you can really get some good synergies going on with this bird is going to activate and give me a grain. Then the next bird, I can spend a grain to do something else. And you can kind of feed your abilities or set yourself up really well for your next turn, which is going to be, I'm going to gain bird cards and activate all my birds in my wetland area, which are then going to set me up for my next turn. And I think if you can plan it out accordingly, you can have some really epic and powerful turns, which is one of the strong points of Wingspan that I really like.
Yeah,
You agree with the base game as far as that goes?
Yeah, no, I agree with the base game. I think the stack gets, when we talked last week about Agricola and it being that little convoluted, I think I have that same issue with Wingspan. I do think that it is nice that they kept those percentages the same, but that stack of cards is just...
So
I just don't feel like you get through it like you should.
Yeah, I can see that. So as far as like some of the expansions added other player powers, so you had or bird powers. It's like, for example, you have the end of round, you have the end of game powers, you have in between turns. That some of those came out with the expansions and weren't part of the base game. Is that something that you didn't like about it, or was it? Did you feel like you were looking for specific cards, and you just couldn't find it because there were just so many cards?
Yeah, I think looking at the end game or end round bonuses, several plays, and I wasn't alone in struggling to get my share of those. One person, it felt like that had an overwhelming number of them, and then a lot of the other players were struggling to get 2 or 3, so it was always like a fight for second place, and which isn't really the end of the world, but just felt frustrating for me to trying to seek out those cards that were beneficial to my end game or end round bonuses.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, that's a good point. And the more cards you have, yes, your ratios are the same, but it's super easy to not find those cards because they're in the bottom of the stack somewhere.
Yep.
So I can understand that point. Maybe you could have come up with a house rule to fix it.
I do. I called it.
Nice. All right, that's my number 4, Wingspan.
My number 4 was Comet. Kind of hand management. You're also building up a tableau as well. Picking which cards you're going to put out on the board. Rescue those animals and add them to your tableau. But in order to move those animals along the board, you have to be discarding cards. And they'll give you 2 little terrain tiles on the card, and you get to move up to 3 creatures you have on your board up those 2 tiles.
I think Comet's great because, as far as the hand management, because you are discarding cards to move as well. Trying to save these dinosaurs, when you play the card out, you put your dinosaur out and you're trying to get them to the safe zone, then they come into your tableau and you have access to their abilities or points or whatever. But also, in order to move your people that are saving the dinosaurs, you have to discard cards. And each of those dinosaur cards have a terrain symbol on them, or it's a wild. There are 2 terrain symbols on cards that are specific terrain symbols. Will be forest and a water, or lava fields and desert. It's a wild, then it's just a 1, and it gets to add. You can play multiple wilds, and it adds to your terrain that you can move. I think it's cool because the fact that there is some actual thought process on what you're going to discard. It goes back to what we talked about last week with the city and jump drive. You're spending your cards as currency, as a resource, to be able to get other cards out. Even though Comet is played very differently from those 2 games, you're still spending cards in order to get your cards into your tableau via movement on the board.
Yeah. I was actually surprised this one didn't make your top 5, Andy. I really like this game too.
I do too. It's great.
I was surprised it wasn't on your top 5.
It was close.
Because I know once we got a copy, you were way excited. You had to buy one in secret for Sierra for her birthday. She was pretty excited when she got that for her birthday, too.
Definitely one of my most favorite games.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. Number 3, same as Andy's number 5, and that is Maracaibo. We have played a lot of. I have played a lot of.
I haven't played enough of.
I sadly think it's going to see more shelf time because
online gaming sucks.
No, because Pirates of Maracaibo will be hitting the table a lot more than Maracaibo.
Yes, it will, because Pirates is awesome.
Excited to still get Maracaibo to the table from time to time, but I think Pirates of Maracaibo is going to quickly jump up my list and Maracaibo jump down my list. But Maracaibo is a great game because you're going around the map. You're going around the Caribbean, and you're going to go around it 4 times. At the end of the fourth round, whoever's achieved the most victory points is going to win. As you go around, though, you're going to have the opportunity to drop your workers into locations along the map. When you stop at those locations, your workers are going to give you bonuses and benefits that are going to help you as you further go around the map. You want to be able to focus on collecting quests or goals. To do that, you have to have collected enough of the correct resources that each unique goal tile is going to have. You have the exploration track at the bottom where you're going to look to discover. There's mile markers that are on there that you're going to score victory points, gold. And then there's also an influence track that has 3 different factions. You have
Nations.
You have Spain, France, and English. And you are trying to promote your influence with those nations, and then also get their cubes placed on the board, or at least get their cubes removed, so that the higher you are on that nation's influence, that multiplies against the number of points that are revealed from putting their influence onto the map. This game, I think, has a ton of options of scoring points. The cards that you play, the management of when am I going to use these for quests? Am I going to use these cards to increase my military strength so that I can increase my influence to the nations? Am I going to be able to speed across that exploration track? Am I just going to be speeding around the map trying to collect goals? Lots of different opportunities and a wide variety of not easy tasks to complete.
There's a trend that I'm seeing, and I really like it with several games, and that's multi-use cards. Love to see cards that have the multi-use because it really creates the difficult decision-making during the game of how to use that card.
Yeah.
Just carding cards for resources, and we've talked about this already with Wingspan, and talked about it last week with the city. Maracaibo falls into that camp as well. Each card is going to have a resource that you can spend at a city in order to remove a cube. You deliver that good essentially at that city, and that allows you to remove a disc from your ship, which is going to upgrade your ship. But it also can be spent to do quests like you talked about, or you can use it to play into your tableau and have that person be part of your crew or whatever, or play it as an assistant that's going to be on the board that you can take advantage of as you're going around the map. I love that. I love the fact that there are multiple ways to use cards. When you draw back up to your hand size, there are cards face up that you can grab. Cost gold to take if you want to take them, but you can also upgrade your ship so that they're free to take, which if you're going for heavy quests, that's one of the first upgrades you want to do so that you can nab the resources that are face up. Okay, I need spyglasses. There's a spyglass out there. I'm going to go grab that card because I can get it for free with that ship upgrade that I took. There's a lot of different ways with your ship upgrades, with the cards, how the board's laid out on formulating a strategy and then trying to implement what you're doing. And it is such a phenomenal game. It's a great experience. Every time I've played it, I love Maracaibo. It's a great game.
It is a really good game. You talked about how much you liked Pirates of Maracaibo more, so I am very much looking forward to playing that once we get that.
Hopefully I didn't hype it up too much, and then Nathan's like, yeah, I was expecting more.
Yeah.
I liked it better. It is more fun.
Well, it should be here in a couple of days, so hopefully we're playing it on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, good times. But anyways, that is my number 3, Maracaibo.
All right, my number 3 is Pathfinder, the Adventure card game. Several different base games for this. There's Rise of the Rune Lords, there's the Wrath of the Righteous, there's several, and I think they're all great. The reason why this made my number 3 is specifically for the hand management. Now, this is a card game. You're going to different locations and you're interacting with the different cards that are pre-set up at the beginning of the game, and it's a deck of cards that are face down. You're trying to find the villain, the main villain, and defeat him or her. And that villain is going to have henchmen there's going to be a henchman in each of the decks as well. Each different location is going to have some sort of benefit or penalty or something that is going to happen by going there. And you're going to be playing cards as you interact with those things. So you have weapons, you have blessings, you have items, followers. There's a lot of different cards in the game that you can take advantage of and that you can have in your deck. Now, everybody's deck is static. You have just a specific number of cards and a specific number of card types in your deck of cards. And you can upgrade those as you find different things throughout the game because you're playing, it's an ongoing thing. You keep your character, you play a game, and then you move on to the next story. So it's kind of a campaign. So you can upgrade your deck of cards, but until you level up to and gain a perk that allows you to add an additional card to your deck, you always have the same number of cards and the same types of cards. That makes it so the management is that much more important. Yes, you're gaining cards. You can potentially gain cards as the game goes along during each play that can be added to your hand and added to your deck of cards. But unlike a deck builder where if you run out of cards, you take your discard pile and shuffle it back up and you keep going. If you run out of cards, you're dead. Your deck of cards is your life. So you want to really manage that well, because if you run out of cards, guess what? You lost. You're out. Just the way some of the cards interact, armor and weapons where you can use them to recharge them. They go back on the bottom of your deck to use them. Some of them will allow you to do that. That means they aren't taken away from your health. Some of them will get discarded. So you have to decide, do I just want to use this as a regular weapon and keep it in my hand? Or do I want to use the extra bonus because I really want to defeat this monster or this henchman, or I'm fighting the villain? I'm going to discard my weapon. It's hurting my health because I'm discarding it. However, does the risk of dying, is it worth the reward that I'm going to gain from it?
Right.
This game does a great job with that.
Yeah, this is a game that I have played a ton of times too. When it first came out, the Rise of the Rune Lords was the first one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The Pirate one was the second one. But this is one that I really very much enjoyed. I mean, this is something that was game night. I did find it taxing, the tear down and rebuild the decks all the time. And that does work well if you have multiple people.
Knowing what they're doing and helping.
Yeah. It has an app that is phenomenal.
Does it?
Yeah, it goes through it and it does all that shuffling for you, which is really good. It gives you that whole Pathfinder feel. You're upgrading your guy, you're finding better weapons, you're trying to find gear, you're getting stuff that you might not be able to use, turn that in. There is enough character development in it that it scratches that Pathfinder itch, whereas it gives you the deck builder feel. This game's got a ton going for it for me.
It does. My only beef with it is the leveling up is a very slow grind.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
but you're going to play it several times, too.
You are. Even over several games, it's like, okay, when are we going to get the next perk? Because we've played 3 games and I'm really ready for the next one. It is a bit slow for me as far as that goes. I would like to see a little bit more progression, more quickly. But otherwise, yeah, phenomenal game.
Excellent. Sierra?
My number 3 is DC Deck Builder. Got that predictability where you know what's in your hand because you're adding to it. You can see what's getting put in, and you can use that to pick carefully which cards you want to keep adding in. Oh, this is the strategy I'm going for. Oh, this is the strategy that other people are going for. Say someone is going for a lot of attack, and you're like, oh, I'm going to want some more defense cards. Or, oh, my character card says that I get a bonus for having a bunch of superpowers. So you're going to be going for those cards and trying to get those to improve your hand.
Yeah, this is one that Sierra does very well at.
Yeah.
She kicks our butt a lot of times.
Yeah, I've only played this one once. No, I've played it twice, and I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
As simple as of a deck builder that the DC deck builder is, and it is one of the more simple deck builders, I would say this is probably the game that gets the most table time in our house.
Oh, really?
To this day, it probably gets the most table time in our house. Yeah, it plays quickly for the most part. I mean, you might get stuck on a villain that takes 4 stinking ever to get rid of. But for the most part, it plays quick. All of my kids enjoy it. I wish I could get my wife to sit down and play it with us more, but she doesn't really enjoy the DC deck builder very much. It's one that, gosh, I would say, I don't know, maybe at least once every 2 months it's hit the table.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So that takes us to number 2.
Number 2,
my lord. My number 2, we already actually talked about.
Oh,
I
yeah,
totally
we did.
forgot.
I did too.
So that was Earth. So
Earth
is still really good.
Yeah, it's Nathan's number 2, so it's really, really good for Nathan.
Yes.
All right, my number 2 is actually, I'm lumping 3 games into one here because the mechanic is the same.
Is that allowed?
I said it was. So.
All right, I guess it's allowed then.
And that is Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and Frosthaven. The hand management is the same on all of these games. Very much an integral part of the game is how you're managing your character, your hand of cards for your character. It is very, very unique compared to pretty much every other dungeon crawl game that I've played, Whereas what you're doing on your turn is based on the cards you're playing, and your initiative is based on the cards you're playing, and you have to play 2 cards on your turn, and you activate one of the abilities at the top of the card and one of the abilities on the bottom of the other card. And that's also your kind of sort of your stamina, I guess. It's not your health, it's your stamina, right? So if you run out of cards, then you're exhausted and you're out of the game.
Yeah.
Once again, the hand management comes into play because there are cards that will automatically, it's a one-time use, you use it, it's really powerful, but then it's lost and it's no longer in your hand. Resting will allow you to take your hand or your cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So unlike Pathfinder, the adventure card game, you do get your cards back, but you will lose one of those cards. One of those cards will be lost. So whether you do a short rest or a long rest, that will determine whether you pick the card or whether it's random, and then they go back into your hand and you can keep playing. But once you completely run out of cards to where you can't play 2 cards down, you are exhausted. I love this game. I love the synergy that some of the cards will have. As you level your character up, you gain more options on cards. You get to pick between 2 cards when you level up to add to your pool of cards you can use. You just kind of choose which cards you want to add to your deck for that particular game that are in your pool. And you start just building synergies not just with your character, but with other characters too, and the cards that they play, because some cards will allow you to increase a certain type of magic. And maybe Nathan's character uses that kind of magic. So I want to be producing that so that Nathan can use it and help out the party. It being a cooperative game that both of these games are. There's a reason why Gloomhaven was the top game for so long. I think that it's great. And I think the hand management part of it is one of its strong suits. It's what sets it apart from a lot of the other dungeon crawl type games.
This is a game that actually talked to Ashley and Zach and my wife, and I think we're going to start Frosthaven together.
Ooh, nice.
But I think before we start Frosthaven,
it's that hick.
It is
Coming out again.
going down to that Frosthaven. I think we're going to go through Jaws of the Lion, just because that gives a real
great idea,
simple rule flow that isn't so overwhelming, and makes some of those rules stick, so that going straight into Frosthaven. Should be a relatively painless. It's like I can't stop. It should be a painless thing.
And I agree. It would give the basics. I mean, Frosthaven has a few different rules going on with it. But it does give a nice base knowledge of how it's going to work. And then you can, once you start Frosthaven, you can, okay, this is how it's different from Jaws of the Lion. I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah. We'll start with the rule bleed from Jaws of the Lion, and then as the rule bleed goes through Frosthaven, it'll be more palatable.
That's a good idea. We tried Frosthaven with my mom and my kids, and I think it was a little fire hosey for my mom. So maybe that's not a bad idea, is to do Jaws of the Lion first. I like that idea.
Yep. So get the basics in and then go from there.
So that's my number 2.
Sierra.
Alrighty, my number 2 is, funnily enough, also a co-op game. I put down 5 Minute Dungeon as my number 2. It's a really quick-paced, you don't have a ton of time to think, and you have to all work together with your individual hands to work your way through a dungeon of cards. And you'll have a bunch of different types of cards. There's your sprints, there's your arrows, your swords, your shields, and then your special abilities. You're utilizing all of these, trying to play down each one at the right time and play to each one of your strengths for all these different cards that you're going through. And in this game, there's 5 different bosses or dungeons that you end up going through. Different strengths with different characters as you're going through these. Oh, well, we know that this is what we're going to need towards the end of this dungeon, so we're going to save some of these cards with this one person and try and get all these other cards out from these other people. It's a really, really fun one and really quick.
I wish I would have had a video the first time you played this game, Nathan.
I was just getting ready to start with that story. I love the teach for this game. We sat down to play. I was given my deck of cards, and we started. And I was like, wait. I know nothing.
Like, ready, set, go.
And no one stopped.
Once that timer goes.
Yeah. And so we went a couple of things, and I tried frantically to figure out what was going on. I was like, all right, stop. I don't know what's going on at all. And but yeah, it was a tough and Amara's mad at me, like, well, just do what you need to do. Okay. You're right, Amara. I should do that.
Come on, you're slowing us up here. Help us out.
I did have fun playing this game. I had a lot more fun the second time we played this game, but the first play was a little rough for me.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I introduced this to you kids maybe 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And you guys have had a ton of fun with it. And we had so this led to us getting 5-Minute Marvel and then 5-Minute Mystery as well. So you guys have had fun with all three of those games.
Definitely.
Good pick.
Oh, so that's back to me.
We are at number 1.
Number 1. All right. My number 1 game is Heat Pedal to the Metal. This is a relatively new hand management game, especially with the expansion, the Heavy Rain expansion, and playing this in the champion modes or the campaign version of it. This game was fun as a base one-off game, but add some of that other stuff, that other content into it, kicks up this game enough to make it to my number 1. It's a car racing, and you are all about trying to maximize what you're going to play to move as many spots forward as you can, but avoid spinning out on the turns. So you have turns that you're going to have your speed at a minimum threshold, and so you have to make sure that you're going slow enough that you're not wasting heats, because for each space that you go beyond what the corner threshold is, you're going to take heat from your engine and put it into your discard pile. And if you lose all the heat in your engine, then you spin out, which means that your car goes back to the line before it crossed that threshold. And then you're going to take stress cards and add them to your discard pile. And the stress cards can be good. They can be bad. You can draw the top card off the deck and add it to your speed. Could be a 1 or it could be a 4, but it won't be a 0 or a 5 because those cards are not counted when you play the stress cards. Then you start with the campaign mode and you start to get some sponsors. You start to get special cards that are going to allow you to increase that threshold as you go around the corner. They will allow you to slipstream 2 extra spaces. They will allow you to cool down, because a cool down is the only way that you're going to get heat from your hand back into your engine, which will then allow you to take those corners at a little bit faster speed. Overall, though, Heat is just, I don't get bored playing Heat. I'm always excited to play Heat. With the rain, you got some weather conditions that you're going to have to start facing, and some slipping and some sliding. Elevated that game even more, and I very much think that Heat deserves to be on my number 1.
When I watch people who haven't played it before and they try to not get any heat at all into their deck, and it's like, no, you need the heat.
You need to use the heat.
You need to use the heat. You got to use it at the right time.
Yeah.
And timing is everything in this game. And it's interesting when you mess up once and how it can be kind of like an actual race car race. One mess up and you're like, that is it.
Yep.
But then sometimes you can miraculously still pull it off if you just manage your heat properly.
Yeah, but sometimes when you get to that point where you're like, oh, I pushed myself too hard, and then you're stuck because you go from 4th gear to 1st gear, and you just have to slowly get back up, and then you get too anxious and you start pushing yourself too much.
Yeah,
you spin out again, and then it really hurts. So
no, it's a fun game. I'm not a huge racing game.
This is not a thing that I'm very big on either.
But they do a good job with this.
But yeah, Heat does. And the end of your turn, you can always discard cards. And so that's probably the big thing where the hand management comes in, is knowing when to discard your low cards and knowing when to discard your high cards, and to make sure that you keep that 0 or that 1 so that you can stay in a higher gear, or you're going to maximize that you have your 3 4s in one hand if you can. Move 12 spots or even more if you're in 4th gear. But Heat is a great game.
I think I've only ever played the base game of it, but I think it'd be really cool to play the expansions.
We need to fix that.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say campaign?
It's not like a long campaign, but you go through 4 laps, I believe, 4 different tracks, and you get sponsors, and the sponsors will give you give you more special cards and allow you to improve your car.
Is there a catch-up mechanism in that? Or is it a rich get richer feel?
So, I mean, each round is starting anew. We've only played one round in the
So who
campaign,
knows?
So who knows?
Time
I
will
can't-
tell.
Yeah, I can't speak to that specifically, but yeah, we'll
Okay.
let you know.
Nice. All right, we're over to my number one. My number one is Oathsworn. Now, we've talked about Oathsworn several times on the podcast
For good reason.
for a very good reason. This game's amazing. And I think once again, we're talking about hand management, and that is very unique with this game. As you play cards, they're going to go into a track kind of around your player board, and you need to be able to try to get those cards back into your hand by playing additional cards. And anyway, which cards you play, you don't want to be left with where you can't get cards back into your hand. You want to be able to be playing cards in the right order and at the right time to be cycling those cards and getting them to where you can get your more powerful cards, which take longer to cycle, get those back into your hand. This is all during the battle part of it. So it's two parts. You have the story part where you're going around in, whether it's in a city, you're trying to doing investigations or kind of furthering the story along. And then that's going to lead to the climax of that particular session, which is where you're fighting something.
The boss battle.
The boss battle. The boss battles are epic. They are so
Yes,
cool.
they are.
The cards that you have are incredibly powerful, and you can do amazing things on the board and just wreak havoc. However, you can't do it every round. I'm playing this really powerful card. Now I have to wait, and I have to be very strategic on my hand management to get that back into my hand as quickly as possible so that I can wreak more havoc. It is a puzzle during a combat. You're trying to solve that puzzle, and it's awesome. I love that game. We need to play it more.
Yeah, we need to finish
We need to
yeah.
finish our campaign, which we haven't played in, my gosh, it's probably
It's
been
been a while.
8 or
Yeah.
9 months since we've
Yeah.
played it. So Oathsworn is my number one.
My number one is Villainous. I love playing it. It's so cool how each different character plays so differently. But each time you have your hand of cards that are tailored to that character to accomplish their unique goal. And it's really fun trying to figure out the right strategy to get that to work. And all the meanwhile, you're trying to throw wrenches in everyone else's plans, and they're throwing wrenches in yours, and you have to try and work your way around it, utilizing your cards to get rid of the cards that you don't need at that moment to get the cards you do need, and then sometimes get back those cards that you had discarded so that you can then accomplish what you need to.
Excellent. This is a game I haven't played.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
this is one that I need to get to the table.
You have the spoons? I mean,
No, I don't.
you got rid of the spoons?
Yeah, I was able to cull the
Oh,
spoons.
nice.
Can't remember who took them. Somebody's nephew. Was it
Nice.
Doug's? I think it was Doug's nephew. Yeah, Doug's nephew. For some reason, thought it would be a good idea to buy them.
So, side note, Nathan thought he was buying Villainous for Doug or myself and ended up buying Disney villain spoons.
Yeah, and it was 4 plastic spoons in it, and yeah,
Yeah, it's just very random.
it wasn't villainous at all.
So, we've got a new one coming out, I believe, or the new one coming
Yeah, it should be here
soon.
in a couple of days.
So, that'll add some more options. But yeah, we should get this to the table with you, Nathan.
That would be good times. I would like to play it.
I agree with Sierra. It is very interesting how they have made all of the villains, each villain plays completely different. And I think that they've done a really good job with that to where the replayability is high. Plus, they've come out with so many different villains. And it's honestly kind of thematic based on the story of that villain, too. So they've done a good job with it. The IP isn't super drawing to me. But that being said, the times I've played it, I've had fun.
So you have the Disney version, and Doug focused on the Star Wars version.
And I have the Star Wars and the Marvel versions, too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
So I really like the name of the new Disney one coming out. It's Disney Villainous Sugar and Spite,
Yes.
which I thought that was a great name. So it's a great game, or I guess it's a great game. That's a great list of games, anyways. But Disney Villainous is one that I should try for sure.
Yes. So now we got to try. We have several games that we got to get to the table so you can try, Nathan. Those are some awesome top 5 lists. Those are all awesome games.
Should we mention Doug's top 5? We do have those.
Yeah, we should. So honorable mention of Doug's top 5s because they'll probably be in the showdown. So we probably ought to mention them.
So he has actually 6.
Well, we're only going to name 5 because Doug's not here.
Yeah, we're not going to name Final Girl. So his top 5 are Expeditions, Heat Pedal to the Metal, Marvel Champions, Endless Winter, and Oathsworn. Gee, I wonder what's going to be at the top of our showdown
Gonna
episode.
be Oathsworn.
Whoop, whoop. It's definitely going to be in the top 3, if not number 1. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a given.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know. Sierra might throw that off.
She might throw it off because she's never played it, but maybe she'll want to.
Maybe she'll want
We'll
to.
have to see.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome.
It is awesome. But you can't play it.
Maybe
Maybe
she could take Dave's spot.
Oh, maybe you could take Dave's spot.
Oh, okay.
You're back on the table.
She's back in the game. Well, we're going to end the episode with that. Awesome top 5 list from 3 of us at least, and then the honorable mentions from Doug. Until next time.
We'll see you making your own top 5 and seeing how they match up with ours at the game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of Werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.